Hello and welcome to a quick glance and another episode on the Azure Developer CLI. So we have already seen the Azure Developer CLI with some quick starter. So how can we get things running quite quickly and get a first hands-on experience on the Azure Developer CLI. Then I made another video around the code or the template that gets created for the Azure Developer CLI. And now what I would like to do within this video is I would like to take a bit of a deeper look into the CLI and what's possible with it and do some more, let's say, manual steps on provisioning things. So let's start at the help help area, at the Microsoft Docs area. And let's go back to the get started using the Azure Developer CLI. What we did up to now was we kicked things off via the ASET, the up -- template to do app, which, well, prompted us for some information, and then everything was running in the backend. And then we also did an ASET D down, which kind of deleted everything again. Now, there is one notice here that is important, that this is kind of an umbrella command that covers basically 3 steps. Step 1 is initializing the project. Step 2 is creating the Azure services via ASET D provision, and then deploying the code via ASET D deploy. Now, we will now do that again for this sample that used before, namely the to-do Node.js Mongo Azure Container app. So we will again use this template here, but this time we will do things step by step and see what is happening in which step. Keep in mind, as within the previous videos, there are some prerequisites: Git, GitHub CLI, the Azure CLI. You have to log into everything. So that's something that I already did. And for the ACA, so the Azure Container Apps area, you also need to have Docker installed and running when you execute the command to deploy your code. So now with that, let's see what's happening within the different steps. So let's switch to the terminal and let's first check what is all in there within the ASET D. So we have the -- help, and as you can see, there is a lot of stuff that is in there that we have to dig into. What we already did was this little one here, ASET D up -- template. That's easy. So that was really the kind of a quick starter. We did not yet touch the pipeline config and the monitoring. So we will do that later. We will now take a look at the single steps. So we will init it. We will provision things. So provision the Azure resources for an application and then deploy things to Azure. There is also a command infra, which manages the Azure resources. So you can, if you do ASET D infra, you can create and delete Azure resources for an application. Before recording this video, I tried that one out. To be very honest, I did not find any difference to the provision command. So the resources that have been created are the same. Maybe I'm missing something, but we will now focus on the provision command. There is also, that's quite nice, a template command. So let's do ASET D template. And there we have a list. And there you see all the templates that are available. And as you can see here, it's only the to-do apps. So thinking about the video of the previous video around the code and the GitHub repository, there are other samples that are labeled as Azure containers, but they are not listed here. No idea if they are not yet ready or if the version of the CLI is not yet updated with the latest versions that are available on GitHub. No idea, but that's a quite good hint that you should probably rely on those. Now, yeah, let's do, we are in an empty directory. Let's do an azd init. And let's see, is there anything that it needs? Azd init branch, blah, blah, blah. It would also like to have a template. And as template, we will use again the Azure Container App template. So let's init via that one. So now we need to enter an environment. So we again say quick glance azd test. That's our environment. Funnily, here, when you think about the azd up, or when you check the azd up video, the please enter a new environment name was entered. I had to enter it once and then it was displayed twice. Now this is not the case here. Interesting. Then we have to go to Europe because I'm in Europe. North Europe, West Norway. No. I want to go to West Europe. Here we go. 32. And I want to use this subscription. Yeah, that's right. So what is happening now? We had an empty directory. So now we have the cloned directory. As you can see, we have everything in here, and we already have the .azure directory, which no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the .azure, which contains the config file and the directory which contains the .env file. The JSON files that you saw in the last video, which contain some additional information, are not yet there because I have not yet deployed it. So this information is missing. Where should it know what's the ID of the container? That's not there yet. That's good. So let's move out there. Of course, nothing happened up to now within Azure because I did not yet provision the infrastructure. So as everything is already in here, so I have my information about the environment, my subscription, my location, and I have my infrastructure folder, I should now be capable of just doing azd provision and get things started, right? So let's see what's happening. azd provision. This will now take again a bit of time. And should then provision the resources. And as before, I can jump to the portal and check the status of the provisioning within the portal when creating the resources. Now, as within the other video, let's do a fast forward and check back when everything is created. And we are back. So as you can see, we have now the azd provision that has been running, which provisioned the Azure resources as before. If we take now a look at the .azure, and there within the environment information, we should now see the main parameters.json, so the JSON file that was missing before, and also the Nope, that was basically it. Typing is hard. So let's get back to the main directory. Yeah. So we have now everything deployed. So taking a look at the Azure portal, we see now again that we have the resource group. We have our application insights, our container app environment, and so on and so forth. When we take a look at the registry, we have no pulls, no pushes. Taking a look at the repository, it should be empty. Reason for that is, of course, because the last step is missing. So the AZD deploy command. So we have now just provisioned our resources within Azure, but we have not yet deployed the code. So with that, let's switch back to the terminal and do an AZD deploy in order to deploy the code. As we have containers involved, we need to have Docker running locally. If we would not have it running, the deploy command would fail. So because of building the Docker image. So that's what it is. And now, well, things get deployed. Now this shouldn't take too long from my perspective, because it's just building and pushing the images. But as I don't want to spoil your time, let's do a fast forward again. And we are back again. So everything got deployed now. So we have now the service API as well as the service web front end deployed on the infrastructure that we provisioned in the previous step. We can check that. We will do that in a second. Before we check it, let's take a look at what changed again within the code. Let me shortly go here. Yeah. As we saw before, we had this .azure file where we first had just the basic configuration. When the environment and the location, then when creating the infrastructure, we got some more information updated here. And now we have also the information around the API and the web front end that we also saw with respect to the AZD up command. So we have now also the image name in there, basically. So this perfectly makes it clear that the AZD up command is just a wrapper around the init command, which inits your template, inits your environment variables, or your environment. Then with the AZD provision, we provision the infrastructure based on the information that's within the infrastructure directory. And then with AZD deploy, we deploy the complete application based on the information that we have here and within the Azure YAML file. And we also get the information back, which will help us when we do local debugging, as we will see in another session. Now, we can, of course, also go to the browser and check the resource group. So as we saw before, the resource group was created. Now within the container registry, we have our two containers deployed. And of course, all the other information is also available. And we have now the web, and we have the URL of the web app, and we have again our to-do app available within our environment. Now that already perfectly ends this video around the decomposition of the AZD up command. So as you have seen, we had the AZD init command, where we entered the template, And we saw that this sets up our basic components for the Azure Developer CLI. So clones the template and puts in the environment and location information and the subscription information for Azure. Then with AZD provision, we deploy the infrastructure, which we have defined within our template. And with AZD deploy, we deploy the code and then have everything up and running. And yeah, with that, I hope I had some interesting stuff for you around the components of the Azure Developer CLI when it comes to initialization and deployment of an application. And stay tuned for more videos around the topic. And with that, ABC, always be curious. See you next time. Bye.